Good morning everyone. Hope you're well. Let's get right into this topic. This topic right here, the art of trusting your gut. Now, I thought this was very, very interesting because in one shape or form, I feel like that this is at the heart of people's frustrations with standing up for themselves, with bosses, with their parents, with the expectations of the world, but especially with people in personal relationships, like a very intimate one, like a romantic one, or dating. And not that it amazes me, but it is very, very telling when you come across the fear in someone's eyes. And I'm not saying you need to be very brave or I'm anything special, but when you recognize that it's the fear of saying no to women, or if you say this, she will go away, or she won't like you, or your parents will get upset, or they will screw their face up, they won't like it. When you realize that everyone else has to be happy, they have to have a good smile on their face, but you can be unhappy. You can have sleepless nights. It becomes ridiculous when you realize this, that you don't trust what you want. You don't trust your gut. You don't trust the red flags you feel. You don't trust any of it. And you just go along with what people tell you you should do. It's no different from the dating advice out there when they're telling you what kind of woman you should choose to be with. If she checks these boxes, marry her. Really? Without even knowing what she's like personally, you just look at the structural stuff over the top. She's a great cook. She's had no partners or extremely little, that she's so rare. She's got no little hang-ups, no quirks. She's a perfect person that's just been waiting under glass for you for the last, 10, 20 years? And all of this perfection stems from a lot of this. You didn't trust your gut. You had these fears and feelings when you were younger, and you just couldn't say anything. You were the 5-year-old that couldn't say no, that couldn't say, hang on, let me think about it. Wait a minute, this is unfair. You keep wanting me to just do everything you want to do, and you're not allowing me to make my own choices. This is my choice. To your parents, this is what I will have to go to work every morning of the week, doing this job at this career. And they can speak as much as they want till they're blue in the face and saying, oh, it's because we love you and we want you to have the best, and that's why you need to be a doctor. No, it's, yes, I will be financially safe, and you can also brag to your friends and tell them, oh, my son, my daughter's a doctor. It's really about you. Because if you listen to the person, whether you're a parent and it's your son or daughter, or it's your friend, or it's your partner that you say you love, if it has to always be your way and the excuse is, oh, it's because I love you, but do everything I want, and I don't care how I make you feel. I don't care that you're annoyed, cowering in the corner, feel defeated. I don't care. Just do what I say. I know what's best for both of us. Now, when you're a child, fair enough. You're under someone else's roof. But when you're an adult, you can vote, you can hold a driver's license, and especially after you've moved out of home. A lot of these people still have the umbilical cord still attached to their mothers, their fathers, their girlfriends. Everybody supplies them with their moral code. And as long as they say yes to them, they feel like I'm doing life correctly. And it's only as you get older, the real shame comes, if you're prepared to face it, is that I said yes to everyone else and I never said even yes a little bit to me. Why? Because they didn't like it. What? Hang on, you have to say yes to us first. That's polite. And then you can do what you want in the shed, in the backyard, when you go home and play with your little hobbies and stuff that none of us want to see and we don't care about, we don't think is important. You can play with your little toys there, but when it comes to real life, you have to do exactly what we ask. Let me set the stage here. Let me give you a story. It's 2014, roughly 8 to 10 years ago. I was contracting as a designer in a very high-profile corporate graphic design studio. Websites, brochures, the whole bit. Nice place. One of the most refined studios I've ever worked at. But it was typically corporate. We were doing very, very high-end corporate jobs. And our main sole clients were banks, insurance firms, stocks, trades, you name it. Basically, where all the money is. Now, you can imagine, it might be a design firm, but you can imagine how formal and politically correct suit and tie it is in that place. Now, it was the reason I decided to contract there initially was because when I went in the interview, I always went to interviews knowing that if they chose me for the interview, I've already ticked all the boxes that they want on the resume. So they're going there to meet me and I'm going there to meet them. We're going to see if we're personality compatible, if I fit into their culture from their eyes, and from what I see in the discussion I have with them, whether I feel comfortable and want to work in their culture. So it's kind of like, let's see if we can be friends. I'm going there to meet people and they're going there to meet me. Now, when I went for the interview, I really enjoyed it. The manager there that interviewed me, I got along with her. I got along with her head manager as well. He was one of the best managers I've ever had. He was an older guy. He was down to earth, great, just one of the most solid, valued managers I've ever been to, which is very surprising because it was the most corporate environment I've ever been to. And I've worked for a few design studios, but he was the most, pardon the pun, human person I'd ever met that was a manager. The rest of them had this kind of veneer of performing their role and being a bit fake. Now, it also, the company and the place had all of the other negative trappings, like, the worst kind of HR, not listening to you, expecting you to do things exactly this broken way, even though you have the experience and you put recommendations forward and they can see you can produce work quicker, faster in your way. But no, they want you to do this clunky way because someone high up who's never set foot in a design studio just made that decision for creatives. And it was a lot of friction and a lot of lack of me having autonomy in the role that I was required to have autonomy in. But it was just a lot of political bullshit, right? So what happened was my manager, eventually he quit after probably a year in of my contract. And I could guess he quit in frustration. While he was telling us when he was departing, you could tell that he was very sad to let us go. His eyes were red because he was very sad to leave us because he'd been there for a long time, but you could tell he could not do what the higher ups were asking and pushing him to do all the time. He was trying to be good by us, but he was being treated really, really poorly by the higher ups, and they were squeezing him to be a worse and worse manager, to kind of be the manager that he didn't want to be. And he moved on, right? And I was very sad for the fact that we were losing him. He was a great guy. A couple of us bounced emails back and forth with him. He was kind of like a member of the family. He was really nice. But you could tell he didn't feel like a member of the family with his higher ups, the management in his team that we never saw, that he went to managerial meetings with CEOs and all of that. And so for his own mental health, he left. And who did we get as a replacement? I got one of the worst managers I've ever had in my life. We've basically gone from sunlight to darkness. And this guy was your typical fake salesman, Gucci loafers, $20,000 fake smile, you know, that kind of thing. I even remember when he came in and he wanted to reassure us, as most managers and changes in companies want to do. They say, oh, it's all business as usual. None of you have anything to worry about. Whenever big businesses tell you that, when there's a big change, that means that everything is changing and they don't want a mass exodus. So I remember that one of the last straws, because everything changed. Everything was about the numbers, performance, and it always was, but this was ridiculous. Our quotas doubled. We were expected to be at work at a certain time. He instituted us coming in, get this, I was one of the senior designers, so all the young people didn't see a problem with this, but I did. He instituted us coming in half an hour earlier every day to work so we could have a team building exercise in the cafe at the base of the tall building in the city where we were. So there was a cafe at the bottom of our building. He wanted us to come in and, you know, have this great vibe with each other and start the day with a coffee and chatting. And he says, coffees are on me. And I was one of the very few that said, like, no, I don't want to come in half an hour earlier. And I was seen as the person causing problems. But I knew what he was doing. And all the younger designers were like, oh, that's cool. Great. We get in earlier and free coffees and we sit there and we chat. And then we just start work. He wanted us, when we started work at 8:30, to start work, not, you know, check our emails for 10 minutes and go to the bathroom. He wanted efficiency. He wanted productivity. He wanted 200% from us. But, you know, our salaries and everything remained the same. All I saw was that we are giving you half an hour extra of our time and you're not paying me my rate for that half an hour I give you for free. You're giving me a $3 coffee while saving yourself $30 to $50 of my hourly rate of salary. But you have to give I give $30 or $50 to you and you give me $4 in terms of a coffee. It's like, nah. And also my time. I'd rather sleep in for half an hour. Thank you very much. So anyway, that was one of the last straws. Actually, no, the last straw, I remember what the last straw was. I was at that time casually looking to leave and giving my resume to agencies and looking to see what opportunities came up. So I was already looking actively, but not 100%. And the last straw was coming to work one day. I was chatting with one of my few friends that I had there, like a really good guy, out the front of the building on the pavement. So I wasn't in the building. We were on the street before we walked into the building. And I must have said something rude, or I used a swear word, or I said something politically incorrect about women or minorities or races or whatever. I made an in-joke that me and my friend were on board with. And someone must have heard us, because about an hour later, I'm called into HR and I'm giving them a drilling down about somebody heard me talking inappropriately outside the building, and they wouldn't tell me who it was. And I said, I wasn't in the building. I was talking privately with somebody else. And they said, but it's still not appropriate. How do you think that made them feel? This isn't the in culture. This isn't the type of employees that we want here. You know, don't you think that that's inappropriate? And it was just this whole politically correct word salad and gaslighting. And I was like, after a while, I sort of said, okay, fine. Yep. Okay. I agree. Whatever you say, I agree with it, because I could not reason with him because I thought it was unfair. I wasn't doing it in the office, in a boardroom, in front of people in a professional setting. So I just decided, nah, I'm leaving. I didn't have a plan. I was like, I'm going. I'm tired of this and I'll see what happens. But for my own peace of mind, anything is better than this. And I just walked away. And I remember people saying, oh, where are you going? I go, I don't know. I'm just not getting up with an alarm clock anymore for a while, and I'm going to see what happens. I'll take a break for a while. This job hasn't been for me for a while, and the pressure. I was trying to be polite, but a lot of people agreed with me, but they couldn't understand how I could just leave. And there's part of me that felt a bit insecure because it's like, the bills aren't going to stop coming, and I don't know when my next paycheck is going to come in. And I've got a little bit of savings, but I don't know how long it's going to last. But I knew the right thing to do was to leave, right? And that moment really showed me that you're not going to die. The world's not going to end. You do the right thing, no matter the excuses. And a lot of times we don't have real life legitimate things to point to and say, yeah, but I can't because of this. Like, I could have legitimately said, well, I can't really leave yet because I don't have a job lined up, but I am determined to leave now. I just didn't want to be there anymore at all. And that actually showed me that almost 99.9% of the time, you do what's correct. If you're honest with yourself, do what's right and screw what other people think. Especially if you're not hurting anyone else. If you hurt people's feelings, who gives a fuck? Who cares? As long as you're not being impolite and rude, like with your language and how you treat people. But if you just want to do something and someone's offended by just you making a personal civil choice for yourself, and whether your family or girlfriend, and this is another thing, my girlfriend at the time, after a couple of weeks, left me because she wasn't feeling it anymore. But before that, I was getting paid very well. And I could tell she wasn't very happy for me when I left. But her response when I just said, look, I just quit, she just went silent. And she was like, in a low voice, well, okay, if you're sure, and okay, you do what you need to do. And she wasn't cheering for me, But mind you, I was telling her for a while how unhappy I was there. And I was probably driving her nuts with my complaining. So she wasn't happy. And then, yeah, when I couldn't go to restaurants and buy shit, then all of a sudden the girlfriend disappeared too. Certain people didn't understand. My closest friends and family did. My family did. That I'll always be grateful. My family has always been really good about me. If I'm really not happy, they're happy for me to make the right choice, and they understand why I do. Whereas when I'm just making a frivolous decision, they're like, you better think about it. So my family's always been fairly good with that. So I want to talk about trusting your gut. Now, I gave you an example of a previous job, and obviously the easy example I give on my channel often is romantic relationships, because the choices we make there, I feel like, especially with guys, and I'm talking as a guy to mainly guys, but I know there's women here, and I love women to talk to other women about this, like Peg here, hi Peg. The more women mentor other women just to be decent, fair human beings, because men, and I'm not absolving us of responsibility, but men come hardwired, just loving women and finding it very hard to say no to women. Women don't come hardwired like that. Women love themselves. Women love a reflection of themselves. Mothers, their own self-esteem as women is built up. They're born proud and seeing the value of themselves as women. We have to make ourselves into something valuable. And it's very hard, especially today in a world without fathers and men being censored and masculinity being the N-word out there, that it's very hard for a guy just to build any kind of self-esteem or have any kind of empirical strength within himself to understand his choices and have courage to do what he wants. There's no point the world and women telling men to have female courage. It makes him look clownish, and he keeps making the wrong choices because intuitively they just don't feel right given who he is and what he is. So there was a great question. I think it was by Boffin. He left a question under a recent poll I made on this subject about when do you know it's time to move on from a thing, could be a hobby, a person, romantic relationship or friend, or a vocation like a job that I just mentioned. When do you know it's the time to move on? Do you trust your gut? And this is what red flags are. They are your gut saying something that you feel. Sometimes you've learnt it, you know it, you've given thought and words to it in the red pill arena. But that's what your gut is. The empirical accumulated ontological truth and knowledge of what you know to be correct, and you ignore it. You just feel like it's nothing. Oh, I'm just nervous. That's nervous to feel this way around women. Or, well, that's what jobs are like. They put the screws on you and you just have to stay back and give them an extra hour. And they don't give you any extra pay for fear of losing your job. I tell you, if you can squash your fear, your irrational fear of anything, because that's what annoyed me. When I had to do what I had to do, like if I had to go to work because I agreed to go to work and I've got to give a solid, good day's work, I can't complain about that. I might be frustrated. I don't feel like going to work. I can't be bothered. I don't want to do this project. It's the worst kind of project. But there's not a sense of frustrated unfairness about me. When the boss is trying to take from me much, much more than is reasonable, or when the girlfriend is trying to take away from me much, much more than is reasonable, or with a family or friend, when people want to take time, attention, money, and just your soul away from you, that is the stuff that really boils us and frustrates us and sends a lot of guys into self-help online and into books, especially online in the red areas of the internet for men. It's all this, the frustrated unfairness of being treated a certain way. That's all it is. Guys don't, or reasonable guys, let's say, 90+% of reasonable guys aren't really going to bitch, moan, and complain about reciprocating stuff. Okay, as a man, you've got to do what men typically do and what you're good at, and you don't mind doing. Don't be lazy. But also, women should be, if they expect this from you, you should expect that from them. I've done a few videos in the past talking about a man having needs as well. So, now I will address you guys here. If you're here live, do what Brian Barrett has done right here. If you would like to ask me a question, if you're here live during this stream, put 3 yellow smiley faces, 3 yellow emojis in front of your question or comment, and I can see it. It pops out. And I know this is meant for me to read and possibly talk about during the stream. But be polite, otherwise I'm not going to answer it. So, okay. Why isn't my live chat on? I'm going to switch this to live chat. I hope it refreshes. Oh, great. All right. All right. Brian's question or comment is, in the US, if you are given a report time, you are not a contractor. You're an employee. Very different situation with taxes and, in my industry, liability and work compensation insurance. Yeah, the laws and taxes and all that stuff in America is very, very different to here. There's a lot of expectations built into your job, and some of them are fine. You go into work just knowing it's the same everywhere, but there's some things that they just keep pushing and trying to shame you with. And I've been in many jobs where they do try and gaslight you into giving that extra 30 or 50% more by trying to make you fear losing your job or displeasing your manager. Your manager's asking you, oh, can you just come in and stay back tonight? can you stay back this night or come in earlier? And if I've got nothing planned, it's like, yeah, fine. If I'm treated with respect, it's like, case in point, I worked at a wonderful studio, one of the best studios I've ever worked in my life. Shout out to Fluid Interactive back into the 90s. That was a great place to work. And I remember that place was like a home away from home. It was like a Google workplace. They had pool tables and music. They encouraged you to download, and it was like a clubhouse. It was such a fun place to work. And the jobs and websites and design work we did was awesome. I learned the most there than I did anywhere else because it was so open, creative. It's just fantastic. If you're a designer, you know what I mean. Maybe you've worked in a place. It always sticks out. And I remember whenever they would say, this job needs to really be finished by Monday, who can come in? Everyone put their hand up. Everyone wanted to come in on the weekend and listen to music while playing video games. They didn't care as long as you just kept ticking the boxes and finishing the work. They didn't care if you came in the middle of the night and worked on stuff. They would have, you guys might remember this back in the 90s, early 2000s when the tech boom was going, where they'd have Quake tournaments and they'd have video game tournaments online on Friday nights and other nights on the weekends. It would really be a lot of fun, and a lot of great work was being done. Compared to now when they rule you with fear and they try and squeeze you with everything. And I started to see the same patterns between bosses. Any relationship I had with people, it was like, didn't matter if it was a girlfriend or a boss squeezing me or the parents or relatives or expectations of anyone else. It's like, you're being rude and you're being unfair. You're trying to take more away from me than I'm trying to take from you. Hello to the regulars. Let me just run through some of the regulars. Sean C., Mr. Adams Apple, how are you guys? Hi to the members like Sean C. as well, and Prince Revolver, how are you? Peg, how are you? Ronin Jutsu Medicine, how are you, dude? Nice to see you here. Mr. Anderson, Blake's Pipes. I don't think I've seen you that often here, but I do remember you. But anyway, let me know your thoughts with your ideas of moving on. I put up a poll on my channel this week in preparation for this because I think it's a good discussion to talk about. And it was, when should you move on from a place, person, or vocation? And interestingly enough, just before this, it was a lead up to this discussion. I was chewing on this topic, and I just posed the question, what's the biggest sign you shouldn't be together, right? And initially I was going to make today's stream off the back of this because I was thinking about what are some of the big things that stick out and some things that we really don't pay attention to. And I was thinking emotional exhaustion is a feeling you should really pay attention to, but a lot of people don't talk about. If you're just emotionally exhausted with the person, you need time away. You can only take them for so long, and they deplete you. That is something that not a lot of people talk about. But in the context of this poll, I really think this main one of lack of trust and respect is very telling. And I would agree with this. In really thinking about this, I wanted to lean more towards emotional exhaustion as an unspoken about topic, about when you can just tell by your feelings that you don't want to be there. Then you should start asking yourself questions and asking them and talking about them within the relationship of the person or people you're with. Why do I always feel like shit in this chat with you guys in your, I don't know, black pill server or red pill environment, or you feminists or whoever? Like, I don't feel good around you. I'm always annoyed. I don't sleep well. I feel bitter. People around me keep saying that, like, tone it down, dude. Like, we don't want to hang around with you. Like, tone it down, dude. Like, girls are walking away. Tone it down, dude. Like, you're too loud. Like, what's with you? We weren't even talking about that. And you always introduce these topics from the manosphere. Like, we were talking about cake. We're talking about going on holiday. Oh, yeah, because when you go on a holiday with a woman, it's like, why do you have to keep introducing these topics into everything? Anyway, I went off track a bit there. But illustratively, it's kind of, I think it's telling though. But the biggest signs you shouldn't be together, I would agree, the lack of trust and respect, because you won't even get to seeing if you're compatible if you're with someone that right off the bat, they don't respect you and you don't respect them, you don't like them, and you can't even get to trust. If you can't like someone, you can't trust them, and you certainly can't get to love after trusting them, because they go in that order as far as I see. Like, trust over time, then love. But a lot of guys just see love as a destination, and they're just driving their car right through, tearing through like and trust, and smashing their car into the mirage of what they want love to be, and it's not there. So lack of trust and respect, I would agree with this, and it's very, very telling. 73%. Now, these are very important, but I don't think you can get to any of these without basic respect. When you're getting to know someone, especially at the start, if they can't be respectful, if they can't be a decent human being and know how to defer their gratification, their emotions, they know how to, they can control the inner turmoil. And if they can't, that's good as well. That tells you something. But this was very telling. Let me read some of them out, actually. Let me see if there's anything interesting here. I'm not her first choice. Well, look. On first glance, if you're dating someone and you could tell you're just okay for the time being, but she's still out there, she's not really that into you and whatever, she's not committed. You can really tell the difference between someone who's committed, who wants to give this a try, who's actually trying in the direction of the both of you. The relationship is important and you're important, rather than, well, relax, man, whatever. Let's just see where this goes. Let's just see where this goes mentality, and I've been there myself, is that, I'm not sure about you. Yeah, it's okay for the time being, but I've got my eyes open still. If something better comes around, see you later. And it's true. Guys monkey branch as much as girls. It's just that guys have a harder time even getting a girlfriend today because of the quality of women out there and how much the bar has been raised for women to even get the low quality of women today. So it's much harder for guys to get something genuine to be able to want 100%. So I understand that. So when everyone sort of says, oh, humans saying for us to just, jump out of a plane without a parachute, I'm not saying that. I know it's very, very difficult. I wouldn't recommend people blindly getting into relationships at all. I would say be happy alone and take care of your peace of mind and mental health, and only let friends and potential partners in that do first pass the friends test, the basic values and decorum and politeness that a decent person would have. So, see, too many people are aiming for, they're jumping the shark with, oh, but has she got this very clever aspect to her? It's like, who cares if she's not kind? Let's go back to the basics. Is she fair? Is she kind? Or is she a really sexy hot mess and you're ignoring everything else because you want to go into bed with her just like the last 200 guys have as well? And she can't understand why no guys want to stick around. She's not self-reflective. And neither are you, because you just want to go to bed and be the 200th and first person as well. So, any comments on the stream? Remember, if you would like to ask a comment here, if you're here, 3 smiley faces, guys, like this example here. Oh, by the way, I had a chat with Stephanie. Uploaded the video recently. So we talked about the thing that bugs me the most. I don't think it bugs women, but why would it? It's when women pretend to want to pay on a date, where they do the fake gesture of, Do you want to split the, do you need some? And then if you actually take them on their word and go, oh, thanks. Okay, that's great. You see it as kindness, and then they never go out with you again because that was just a shit test. They didn't really mean it. I don't like it because it's fake. If you never had the intention of paying, just don't pull out your wallet. Just stand there, and then I'll know. But if you're worthwhile, I may go on a second date if you're a great person, but you just like a guy paying for a coffee or a meal. And that's another thing. I talk about this in the video with Stephanie. But don't take women on dinner dates for the first date. Take every woman on the cheapest date you can afford. Most of the time, I just took them on a coffee date. Don't try and impress them. You're going there to see if your personalities match, if they got the virtues and values you respect that's compatible with you off the bat. And then it still might take time after that to just discover they might be a nice, decent person, but really our core values don't align. And I can really see us splitting over these because these are non-negotiable core values of me that I refuse to change for anybody. Case in point, mine, I don't care how wonderful Stephanie is. If she wanted kids one day, it's like, that's a deal breaker for me. I just can't be that person. Again, some of you will say, yeah, well, what about 20 years from now, 10 years? I'm going to be 70, dude. Relax. Sometimes these conversations, but what about, they're not realistic. It's like, who are you now? Can you trust your gut and your experience from the past in relation to really kind of knowing and trusting what choices you make? And then in the near future, you know that you can consistently rely upon that. You can replicate this because you have the experience behind you, you know? I have a super chat. If you are here and you'd like to ask me a question during the live stream, put 3 emojis before your question like this. But if you don't, and you would like to say thank you with a donation, throw me a super chat like Prince Revolver has here, which thank you for the donation, Prince Revolver. I really appreciate the continued support. Helps the channel out. I'll see it definitely and I'll read it out. Unless it's something really terrible. Don't be a child. Prince Revolver says, it's crazy when average or even below average women think they're better than average men. And this is why I also say it's very important to be open and call out what is. Be polite, learn how to speak. Let your intelligent conversation and way you can communicate, put them in line, give them something to think about, or let them know that you notice. There's a lot of dumb arseholes, selfish dumb arseholes out there, men and women. They get by on their superficial looks, their, you know, a lot of the superficial stuff that gets them date after date after date, and they just keep going on that, right? But if you call them out and say, no, I see that, you ask them a question and you call them out, you shine the spotlight. It's like, you're not fooling me with that. You're not snake charming me the way you snake charm any. Explain yourself. Like, no, I think that's a bit rude. Like, really? You like that? Like, I'm actually the opposite. You let them know, like, nah, I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm the opposite of what you just bragged about. What your macho or bad girl persona is bragging about. I think you're terrible. You might not say that. You could. But it's like, no, I don't think that's really good moral character. What are they going to say? And that's good for you too. Especially when you hear yourself say these things, even more unlikely that you're going to go back on it. But whenever you don't voice your gut and what you know to be true, what you've learned in the manosphere, what really makes sense, you go on a date, you see it, but you say nothing. You don't trust yourself because you're still scared to say something. They still think they're in control. You think you're in control but have said nothing. But practically, in the real world of this dynamic you're having with them, they are still in control because you're pretending to go along with things. Don't pretend. Be genuine and force them to be genuine. If they're playing the game and they're a kind of person that doesn't want to be genuine, that tells you everything you need to know. But if you're switched on, if you see what they're doing and say nothing, that's on you. If you take crazy to bed and then are surprised that the police come knocking at your door the next day, or you get a surprise phone call of like, Teehee, I knew I said I knew I said I was infertile, but I'm pregnant. It's a miracle. Yeah, okay. Melee. If women use the same methodology of dating to, say, gaining employment, many would starve. I must earn 200K methodology, for example. Yeah. Yeah, they go to job interviews being a lot more reasonable than they do on dates. Because women go on dates largely, most women out there, especially the entitled, arrogant, modern woman out there who is a lower level feminist, the expectation she has, paint her in that way as well. And everything she wants and expects kind of pointing in that direction. They go to dates like the employer and you're the employee. They don't even go on a date wanting to get the job of a relationship. They go there saying, well, I'm hiring. Are you good for the job? It's a very guys go to job interviews, to dates, to family gatherings, wanting to impress mum and dad, going on dates, wanting to impress Chicky Poo, some stranger he doesn't know, going on jobs, wanting to impress the guys are just forever out there. And this is what we've got to undo is stop going out there impressing strangers, the people in your life that have earned your respect and trust. Yeah. Impress them to a degree that isn't obsequious and kind of doesn't embarrass you and make you feel like you've touched a sticky doorknob. But the amount of guys, their default is impress, make them happy. Am I good enough? Did I get the job? Did I get the boyfriend job? Did I impress the family? Did I do the right thing? Did I make my country proud? Did I get enough likes? Did I work? Well, if you don't have this here, if you don't have this respect, guys, there's been one or two generations now where guys are just figuring out, like, if I don't have that, it just sobers you up. Why am I trying so much? I don't even get respect. You don't even treat me well. It doesn't matter what or who it is. It's like, come on, like that has to be there at my Maslow's base of any relationship. Respect. After that, like, trust, love, whatever you want. But if I don't get the foundations of respect, like there's no house. It's all quicksand. Oh, but you should give me everything on top, even if it sinks. Yeah, I'll drown. You won't. So yeah, respect. Give respect, but you need to learn, especially guys need to cut that umbilical cord between them always trying to impress everyone. Like, I'm not going to lie. The last couple of months, my channel has dived in terms of subscribers, but I have to remind myself I don't care about getting rid of people who don't want to watch me talking about what is important to me now. I can't just keep talking about what I talked about like 7-8 years ago. Watch those videos if you want. If you want to re-watch The Matrix again for the first time, if you want to watch part 1. But I'm not making Matrix part 1.1 for a bunch of people who just want, a new coat of paint on an old chair. Anyway, Lord of Gingers. Oh, you changed your name. That's Pete, isn't it? Letter P. That you refuse to invite to gatherings. Well, it's a shorter avatar name, a shorter moniker, so easier to write. I remember when I wrote a quote out of Pete's on mine, and I usually kind of blow it up on screen. And like when I'm showing it on this stream, like full screen, and most people take up this, and Pete's like ran off the screen. I had to kind of reduce his inside size because it was like saying some sort of German word. I think German words, aren't they the longest in the top 10 longest words are like the top 10 are German? I still remember reading Schindler's List in year 7, and I still remember the name Oberster Gruppenführer. And every name in Schindler's List was like 5 to 10 syllables long. Anyway, Lord of Gingers, in relation to biggest sign you shouldn't be together. He says, if you can't trust and respect one another, which is baked into things like not being her first choice, which is big, then the lack of compatibility, emotional exhaustion, unresolved issues, and so on is an afterthought. I agree. Yes. It's what I was talking about before. This was a really beautiful example of me wanting to make a discussion about emotional exhaustion, an untalked about feeling that you get that really isn't something we talk about on, as a first point of call. But after looking at all this, yes, respect is the most important thing. Without that, you can't even be civil. You don't even know how to have manners. You're a petulant 3-year-old. He continues. Trust and respect is a prerequisite for the rest of the conversation to even be had, in my opinion. Yes. I would say it goes in this order. 1, trust and respect. 2, unresolved issues. 3, emotional exhaustion. And 4, compatibility. I would flip around 3 and 4 personally. I am looking for compatibility. And I think that you're not going to be emotionally exhausted if you're compatible as well, Pete. That's been my experience. For instance, most women, like Stephanie, is not exhausted with the amount of talking and introspection. I let everything out. I talk about this cup of tea and I go on and on about it. And sometimes I laugh because I've been talking so much about something so banal and getting into the forensics of an everyday conversation. And she enjoys it and she laughs. And I said, does this drive you nuts sometimes? She goes, no, I love it. So I think if you... a sign of emotional exhaustion. If you aren't compatible, you will be emotionally exhausted. And Pete continues, contrary to the popular opinion where number 4 is put as number 1, I would say it's the fundamentally most important one in terms of once you've gone on a few dates, you know where the honeymoon is, and that's that bridge between she's hot and attractive and I'm actually making her real into an actual partner I could be with for the long term. Is this commitment material? Is this the kind of person I would introduce to friends and family? Would I be embarrassed of her? Would I invite her to my home? Would I live with her? So that's what I'm doing. I always talk about compatibility in terms of being serious and committing to somebody in a very real way. That's why I talk about it. Most people, I put it as number 1 because it's a big thing that a lot of people don't really look at. But I would say yes, respect especially. Trust comes later. I probably shouldn't have put them both together, but respect really is the standout to me. If you don't get respect and the person, just in a cordial way, doesn't know how to respectfully be polite and fair and civil to somebody, then that is the easiest way to just bail. Jump out of that plane and pull a ripcord and never see them again. Let's get back to the live stream before we go on to some of these other comments, because I'm reading your comments before I read any older ones. Brian says, how about a woman that talks about her soon-to-be ex-husband telling a guy how horrible he is and then gets back together? Oh, God, yeah. Don't date people who are still with their exes, or, the divorce is happening next year. Yeah, look, you can make the judgment call if the divorce is happening that week. The papers are in and it'll be finalized this week and it's been going on for a year, and they're a really good person. You can make that call on your own. It's up to you, I guess. But again, some of these examples, you know what the answer is. You're asking me for confirmation. You're asking me to laugh because we know what the answer is. The problem is a lot of guys get into this situation and they just want them. Their hormones are so high. And it's like, Yeah, but can my hamster wheel justify anything? You are like Einstein trying to come up with the theory of relativity. Like, it's just there. Like, can I come up with an excuse to stay here? Because everything is telling me to run. Because I think the reality with a lot of us, me included, is you can sit here and give stories about how terrible an ex you went out with. And she did this, and she did that. Oh, let me tell you about this. And it's just like watching perfect example. Where Stephanie and I have been watching this true crime series on Netflix, right? It's about, maybe some of you people have watched it. Look it up. Worst roommate. Every single story is just the person moved in and they started shitting all over the carpet. They locked the doors. They screamed at them. They threw things. They came at them with a knife. They kidnapped their child. They did this horrible stuff. The person eventually moved out. And then that bad roommate got in contact and said, I'm sorry. Look, no hard feelings. You want to give it a second chance? Or can we just meet up for a coffee? And then this person being interviewed, this idiot, is like, you know what? We all make mistakes. And I thought, maybe it's just I'm a good person. I went on that coffee date and, hindsight is 2020. I probably shouldn't have. But then, I felt sorry for them. And, my son, they liked them. And so we decided to be friends again. And then we moved. And it's like, oh, God, I'd die then, And a lot of these people did perish. A lot of these people got, the ultimate lights out. Probably can't say it during the stream, but it's like, I think a lot of us do this. We tell these great Netflix stories in terms of our relationship horror stories. And it's like, oh my God, yeah, you're too nice and women are all crap. It's like, no, like you should leave in the first 5 minutes of this documentary. You don't leave at the 60-minute point of this documentary. Tell me if I'm wrong. I know there's people that are like, I never saw this coming, like they were perfect, and then all of a sudden they dropped an atomic bomb on the relationship. And so, like, I know there's those examples, but let's be honest, that's a small percentage. We're in the 1% of you never noticed anything. She never had a temper. She never did this or that. She never went out with her friends alone. She was just this perfect, great wife, and everything was 100%. And then all of a sudden, she turned into Mr. Hyde. Come on. Are you lying to yourself to avoid having egg on your face? Just admit the truth of where you fucked up, and then you're off the hook. I respect guys that go, yeah, my fault. I screwed up. It's like, cool. I can trust them. But it's like, well, technically I wouldn't have screwed up if you didn't, bloody blah. That's chick shit. Prince Revolver, thanks for the super chat again. He says, picture a 60-year-old man and a 60-year-old woman. Both are unfair. Both are stubborn. Both are passive. But deep down, they both want love. This modern dating old children who refuse to grow. Yeah, there was actually a comment, I think you left or someone left under Stephanie and I's, go have a look here. Someone left a really good comment, and I really agree with you, so I want to make a video about it. Dating as you get older especially, and probably younger, it's just highly independent, stubborn, narcissistic assholes who just are lonely. They don't want to be alone, but they want to date. And they just keep going on dates, and they just don't want to give anything. They don't want to choose. They don't want to be honest. They just don't want to be alone, but they want to remain independent. And I think that is so much of the bullshit that's going on. Let me know your thoughts if you're here during the stream. But I think that's a big part of it. Yeah, this modern dating, old children who refuse to grow. Yeah, when are you going to grow up and just for your own sake and say, I'm going to stop drinking. It's enough. I'm going to lose weight. Like I'm getting too big. If I get to like 50 and 60 and I'm still 150 kilos, man, like that's heart attack material. There's no coming back. Like I can't, screw the six pack. I just want to look healthy. But I can't do that. There's a point of no return. And we can laugh and talk about women who, oh, they're going to grow old with cats. Ha ha. It's like a lot of guys are going to have their own version of that if they keep deluding themselves and not having honest conversations and admitting when they're being children while they're dating. Don't be a child when you're dating. Don't be pushy. Don't just like arm wrestle up a partner to be what you want them to be, but go there honestly. Tell them, unload everything. Even if it's stuff like, well, maybe they don't need to hear this, but this is important and this is what I'm going through. They'll thank you. They'll be like, no, thanks. I can't deal with that. But don't paint a false, perfect picture of yourself like you're trying to get the job, because it's unfair to the other person if they are. And the more you're being honest and active listening and all these great essential things for communication and observation, if you're trying to do what I'm trying to do with these streams of my channel and have an honest conversation that'll help you think better and be better, both in speaking who you are in real time in a conversation, and then also getting actually what you want instead of always hoping it'll just be thrown at you like a bouquet of flowers. This is so important so we don't stop wasting time, because everyone's being like this. Old children who refuse to grow up, as Prince Revolver says. Big Ol says, when a woman doesn't pay with money, she pays with something else. Yeah, not always. It's overrated. All guys have told themselves like, yeah, this is worth $1 million. Dude, okay, look, I'm not bragging by any means. I'm not a Chad, but after a while, every naked woman is like structurally the same thing. I came to a point, and I think Stardust has mentioned this as well in one of his very old videos, when he was sleeping with a woman and he was just aware of being in that moment and saying, is this all there is? Is this it? He wasn't mesmerized. He wasn't anesthetized and sort of on some sort of high. It was like, this is the same as like, there's no difference. Like, I'm just imbuing this artificial thing over the top of it. And I had that moment as well in my, I think it was late 30s, early 40s. And I was with a beautiful person at the time. We were in bed and I was just, my mind was like, you know what my mind was thinking? Great body. And I was looking at their body and my mind was going, yeah, I know what you're trying to do, nature. I've got your game. I know what you're trying to do, but I'm switched on. I'm not buying it. It's just kind of like, it doesn't satisfy anymore. Like this doth not make a relationship, however you say it in old English. Brian says, I did run. Yeah, when you're in your 20s, you have endless reasons, usually dumb reasons to stay. When you're older, like a woman fighting in your face, why would you stay for that? Yeah, when you get older, like just real obvious impoliteness and rudeness. It's like, look, you're not 20 and I'm not 20. You can't get away with this stuff. One, because I'm older, and two, because you don't look like you're 20. You've frozen your dating strategy for the last 10 or 20 years and it doesn't work anymore. That reminds me of a joke. You want to hear a joke? Not like you can answer me. Actually, give me a why in the comments if you want to hear a joke related to this. But I won't tell you otherwise. Screw it, I'll tell you anyway. I'm not waiting because there's a delay. There was a young guy and he was coming of age. He was going to become an adult, 18, and his buddies take him to a brothel. And he's all excited. He's never been with a woman. And they say, we're going to all chip in and we're going to pay for the filthiest, best escort in this place. And he goes into the room and he's all nervous and she looks at him and she's really hot and she says, you're new to this. You've never been with a woman. And he's like shaking and he can't even muster the words and he's saying, shaking his head no. And she says, don't worry, I'll teach you. I'll run you through everything. You don't have to worry about it. Relax. And she gets in the 69 position. And all of a sudden, after a few seconds, she just farts. And he just gets off and goes, oh, God. Oh. And she goes, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed. I promise like it won't happen again. And they get back in that same position again and she farts again. And she says, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. And he's like choking. He goes like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want, she says, no, look, I'll give you half your money back. I'm so embarrassed. This never happens. My reputation, I don't want the word to get out. I will give you an extra hour for free as well. And they get back in there. And again, she farts again and she gets up. She's almost tearing and she's almost going to leave the room. And she manages to quiet him down and apologizing. And she says, I'll give this to you for free. Just don't tell anyone. And they get back in the 69 position again. And again, she can't help it. She just lets a big one rip and she farts again. And he goes, that's it. No. And she goes, oh, I'm sorry. She's crying. And he goes, that's it. I can't do another 65 of them. And that's a joke. All right. Back to the topic. Yeah, because I'm being very serious about these topics so Boffin wanted to hear the joke. Well, I just told it, Boffin. All right. Any final comments? Otherwise, we can look at some more here. But I wanted to also relay that fourth part of the poll. Do you feel miserable around the person? And investigating that. Because a lot of guys go to the data and the science, but very few want to consider their feelings seriously. And I know they're not measurable, but your feelings can get you to ask questions of yourself and them on a date that will clarify, that will give you measurable answers. So if she says something that stuns you and she can say, well, you didn't like what I said, or I said something wrong, you should just be honest and say, yes, I don't know how to take that. You shouldn't say, yeah, that's cool, because you just don't know what to say and she's rebooted your mental hard drive and all you can think about is getting it into bed. When you try and put words to your feelings, whether you don't like something or you do like something, I like this chick, why? Don't just go because I like her, because I vibe with her. That's the dumbest thing I hear in modern dating. Oh, can we just vibe? Can it kind of just be whatever until it's more than like whatever? It's like, great. When's your next book coming out? Oh, love to read a Valentine's card from that person. I like kind of, whatever, XXX. I know my partner through and through. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're miserable around a job, family, your partner. If you can't get it out and know why, and especially communicate why, you will never get out of Shawshank. You will never get out of there. And you'll always be the victim, going to your invisible little caves online, feeling like you're Braveheart, but really you're screaming into space. No one can hear you. No one can hear you. I've told one or two people when they're really being honest, like on these chats, and I encourage you guys after this stream, jump on the chat we all have here. If you have a microphone, jump on my Discord server. The link's below and in my About section. I remember having a chat with one of the guys there recently, and he was being honest, telling me about how he's having this trouble. He's going out with the girl, and he doesn't want to say this, and it seems like she's like this, and he doesn't want her to take advantage of him, and he really likes her. And I'm saying, everything you're saying to me now is awesome. You should be saying all of this to her. All of the stuff that a lot of us have made videos about, responded to, are the unspoken words we never said to the person we should have said them to. A lot of it is that. And the better you can articulate and think and communicate, the better that'll happen, and you won't have those regretful moments. You can wrap them up in like, oh, women are like this. It's like, whatever women in the world are, this is all you've got to work with, right? And the clarity of your life, how good and stable it is how tidy you decide to make the people that come in and out, how tidy the conversations you have. Stop watching rage bait. Stop watching not virtual, reality TV style content like Pearl or Fresh and Fit and getting off on the drama. If you don't want drama in your relationship, we know what drama looks like. It's easy. Stop calibrating what works solely via what obviously doesn't. Are you watching stuff that helps you form answers? Are you watching stuff that is a not just necessarily positive conversation, because you don't want to be delusionally positive, but are they constructive podcasts? Really open, constructive podcasts? Or are they nihilistic, negative, nothing you do matters, there's no free will? Is that the kind of stuff you're watching? And if it does, you will get that. So it doesn't matter if it's with a person, with a hobby, with content, whatever you're consuming, whatever you're consuming as a relationship, that is going to kind of really bleed into your view and your attitude. It really is. So, any final questions? How long have we been going for? Just over an hour. Beautiful. I love podcasts, live streams that are about an hour long. So, any final questions if you're here? We've got a few. I won't say your avatar name because YouTube doesn't like that. But he says, but then one needs to ask what else is offered on the table. I find this kind of odd because there's an objectivity to the question, like what does a person bring to the table? But I could meet someone who brings a lot to the table that I don't want, you know? So the quality of what they bring to the table is also very important. It's not just the quantity. They bring this, they bring that, and therefore, yeah, I'm committing to her. She's going to be my girlfriend. You have to bring something compatible that you both want to the table, something that you both find valuable to exchange. There are some things that are like, well, at least she doesn't have that. That's a green light. That's a green flag. That's good. But the actual real core values of what makes them stand out positively and compatibly compared to everyone else, what would make you, to the exclusion of everyone else, stop dating and really get them? Like that, this is the car I am going to buy, and this is going to be my car, and I'm going to stop looking. This is the house I'm going to buy. I've been looking for houses for a while, and this is the one. I know it through and through. I've had experience. I've been there. I've assessed a lot. This one is a standout. Why do they stand out again? Do you know why? Can you put words to it? So what someone brings to the table is not just a objective standard of quality. It's a subjective one as well, if you know what I mean. Some of the questions, I don't know what they mean, even if you've got emojis. With a woman in particular, and really anyone, conversations seem to flow. Yes, you are heard, ideas are exchanged, and not in a I'm smarter, better, but in a I understand you, or I understand you other human way. Yeah. If you're having a good time on the date, it's really good to reflect on why. Even during the date, I've had times where like, this person's great. And you notice you're happy, you're smiling, you're kind of completely free. It's like, oh, here's someone who's on my side. He's a kind of, I feel like I've known this person for a while. Why? And you can talk about everything. And there's a social tact in recognizing that too. I think there's also the part where a lot of guys really don't have face-to-face friends or catch-ups. They don't have real face-to-face interactions. So they can only go on the mechanics of dating advice. They really don't exercise the empirical muscle very much. They don't know something to be true by the testing of it. They don't have their own experimenting behind them. It's proof of why they make the choices they make. And, I know that's a problem, but have better conversations, have more constructive conversations. Stop having destructive ones. Stop having nihilistic, I know all the answers. Men are all bad. Women are all bad. The government's to blame. Bring back tradition. Like, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to sit here with my arms crossed and I'm going to be inert waiting for the grave. It's like, man, another sperm should have entered that egg. Personality does matter, but it's kind of like a very vague term. What about their personality? I think personality is the umbrella, and underneath that, it's kind of like certain values. So personality, introvert, they're maternal or not maternal, just a lot of their character in their life, in their day-to-day week. What does it look like? How do they want to spend their time? What are their dreams for the future? All right. Any last and final questions before we wrap up? Thank you for coming along to this week's stream. I'll run through some of the comments under the post. Actually, let's go under this one. When should you move on? Because there are some interesting ones here. Luke says, when it's been made abundantly clear you are not welcome, loved, or celebrated when you are of for who you are. If you're actually in a committed relationship, really, they should really welcome and celebrate. You don't need to be put on a podium like some prince, but they should always be forward-leaning and happy to see you, and always be, their first reaction is to say yes to you and not no. So in that sense, yes. When you first meet someone, trust needs to be earned from both of you. You can't expect a woman to trust you right away. Alfonso, when the place people in your life no longer support your growth, happiness and challenges, and quietly move on with the things and actions that give you the aforementioned. Yes. When should you move on? ASAP. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of guys, they realize this stuff too late. And the biggest gripe, if we're honest with each other, is I should have left earlier. I should have done the right thing earlier. I should have said this earlier. David P., longtime supporter, says, when love is no longer being served, it's time to leave the table. Same can be said for respect. Boffin, how are you, dude? He says, like so many of the very thought-provoking questions you've posted, I think the answer will depend on the particular situation. This is often the answer. Like, a lot of people, it's like, oh, it's not a good question because there's not a black and white answer. But even the conversations I have with Stephanie and the friends, you guys online, they're the interesting ones because it makes you think and makes you discern. So, yeah, there is a right answer depending on the context and depending on who you are and what you're looking for. Yes, that's the right answer. But there's no t-shirt that I can print the right answer for you and give it to you. And like everyone can buy it and they will solve their problem that way with women all the time. You can't do it. It's contextual. It is all of this stuff, subjective romantic life, trying to find a committed, like long-term partner is mostly subjective, almost demonstrably empirical, and is depending on a particular situation and person. It's correct. So it's not like, oh, these questions frustrate me because I want a perfect answer. If you're that kind of person, you're not really getting that a conversation needs to be had between you and the other person so you get the correct answer. Boffin continues, moving on from a girlfriend is very different than moving on from a wife, etc. That's true too. There's very little to lose, and it probably hurts a lot less. And also you're letting go of a lot of investment in time, probably with the wife more than a girlfriend. He continues, and the question spawns more questions. Are you moving on or are you running away? That is a very good question. I almost added this into the title and the thumbnail of today's stream. Are you moving on or running away, in terms of when is it time to move on? These are all very, very essential questions to ask. These aren't being intellectually and philosophically clever. They are the only way you're going to know if you make the right choice, and not just vibing your way through things. He continues, are you escaping a horrible situation because caused by another, or are you avoiding responsibility? There are no universal answers to questions of this sort, but they do serve to illustrate the importance of having a well-reasoned sense of what you wish to accomplish in any life endeavor and embark on. And also, I would say these kind of questions really serve that you should be having these kind of conversations more with your buddies and Chicky Poo sitting across from you on the date. And if she's excited to have these conversations with you, to really get to the heart of what's true for you and her, what means something, the core of your values, that's what you need to get to. Good statement, Boffin. Sometimes you can't. Very rarely you can't. I realize there's exceptions. Again, no black and white answers. I realize you describe a certain situation as like, yeah, there's no way out. Hole's too deep. You're locked in a cage and the key was thrown away. There's actually no objective, reasonable way to go out other than you're going to destroy so much, and moving on, the consequences of moving on will be far, far worse for you and everyone else around you than staying. So sorry. Some people have made their bed, or luck and chance has made their bed for them. Someone who has cancer. Move on from that. Maybe you can mentally, but I don't know. Prince Revolver says, most people don't have the experience or maturity to know when to move on. I agree. Me included. It might take a failed relationship or two to reach that point, and that's if you have enough self-awareness to make changes. Yeah. Maybe I've always been that kind of child. I've been very adventurous. I was always making tree houses, jumping off roofs, hurting myself, riding bikes, near misses, touching hot stoves. I'm very creative. I've got to write. I've got to work things out. I don't like being told what to do. I will listen, and I will really respect honest information. I'm not going to belittle it, but I will have to go back and write it out and figure the jigsaw piece together and actually test it out and go, oh yeah, they were right in what they said. I can't just, if there's a way to test it, I want to test it. I want to feel it. I want to know it. I want to know that it's mine. I want to know that the person I meet was mine and not who my parents arranged me to go out with. It's like I'm supposed to honestly love this, and I had no choice in the matter. If there's choice, there's testing, there's touching, there's choosing, there's diving in that direction and seeing what happens. There's the adventure of what happens and empirical experience and coming back with the story and writing in your notebook and really lucidly knowing who you are and what your life is about and why you're here and why you will never go down that road anymore. But only by touching that stove or going down that path, you discovered other paths that you never would have discovered had you never gone down that road. That's part of that unscientific gut, not reckless, but calculated risk, adventurous spirit that I think a lot of guys should sensibly try and exercise more and more. Peg Northern Bell, she says, in regards to moving on from a place, when the desire to stay is outweighed by the mindful decision, drive, and vision to explore and experience that which involves moving on or forward, not showing caution to the wind, but harness the winds of change and plot the course where you want or need to go. Starting to lose me, Peg, but I get where you're coming from. I can talk with my word salad, so I'm not making fun of you. An essential tool on this journey is a properly functioning internal compass, yes, involving a latitude of grateful and longitude of fortitude. Strength and humbleness. Yes. Quaz, how are you, dude? Go check out Quaz's channel. He's been posting a lot of little shorts of just little vignettes of him enjoying life, which I think a lot of us need to just do and stop talking about life as much and actually start doing it. Show, don't tell. Best books, best stories, and it's where most people learn from life. And if all we're doing is telling each other what life is about online, we're not actually being human. If you want to, let's get a bit philosophical. Human beings have always evolved, learned, grown, and progressed via stories. We learn quite acutely. The light bulb goes off via story. It's been proven psychologically as well, right? It's only now we're not telling stories very well. You just need to look at Hollywood and movies. Stories are terrible. They're shit. They're terrible. You have to keep watching movies in the 90s to get an actual story. So go and show, stop telling. Stop talking about life and start doing it. Start testing it. You know? Here's my notes on the page. Let me throw this note next time at a conversation or where I go or when I choose something. Let me do what I wrote. Otherwise, it's a Lord of the Rings fiction. It's all fiction. It's all fiction until it's real. Real? You know, it's not real until you make it real. Until you can't keep talking about someone else's train wreck and feeling like your life's great. It's like, okay, do the opposite of that. Like, choose something good. Look, oh, but I'm too smart for that. It's like, okay. Fuck. It's been a long time since I spilt. This is tea, by the way. It's not coffee. Quaz says, okay, let's read Quaz's comment. One aspect of relating that I have written about a good deal involves what seems to me to be an essential misunderstanding. We assume that our romantic relationships need to be fundamental and wholly fulfilling to last. This is a perspective that, if acted upon, is doomed to failure and frustration. Yeah, you can't. Every day is not going to be a game show with your partner or even on your own day. Just think about it, guys. Is every day a 10? Or do you have some flat days where you feel like a 2? You're miserable, you're depressed, you don't want to get out of bed, you're not motivated. But the funny thing is you can't leave yourself, so you always stick around and you think it's great being around you. But when you're with someone else, you have to lift yourself up from your lazy misery, because someone else can leave you if you're a wet rag. If you're a 2 out of 10 all the time and the world, you always see the negative. If you don't try and, the other person can help you be more realistic as well. But every day is not going to be a 10. I'll continue his comment. Human beings are very finite after all and are limited in ability to grow, adapt, or learn. One's fundamental relationship needs to be with something much deeper and greater than a person. But a good human relationship is one where these fundamental relationships and their reaching are supported or respected. One's partner needs to be a traveling companion, not a destination in themselves. I'll come back to that, but that is important. If they don't understand or embrace this, one does certainly need to move on. Not literally a traveling companion like my ex wanted me to be. She just wanted me to follow her around the world wherever she wanted to go. But an actual traveling companion where you talk, you grow, you go places, you have dreams that are aligned. You want to do things, and that's what this means. I don't want to speak for quads, but he says, of course, this would apply to a job or anything else too. Yes. When loyalty is satisfied after the need revealed itself. When your stomach gives you enough consistent disruption, trust your gut. Yes. What this whole stream was about. Trust your gut. When should you move on? Okay. What was this comment on the post? First thing in the morning by Rocket. Move on. First thing in the morning. Yeah, get out of bed. Unless you mean something else. Sometimes when people, not saying Rocket, but people throw like the punchline of what they're thinking about. They know the joke and they're throwing the punchline. It's like, I think you need to explain a little bit more. Or maybe I'm just not an online person. But anyway, some great comments. See, I did it again. I reached an hour into this podcast. Let's go back here. I reached an hour into this, and instead of ending it at an hour, I just went to a few more comments, and it ended up being a half an hour longer, more stream. I do this in conversations. One thing I've got to, and it helps having someone that you live with now, I'm actively trying to be more concise in my conversations. One thing I've noticed that while I have a decent vocabulary and I can express my thoughts, I always come to my thoughts by talking around it openly and then finally distilling it like a chemist to its bare constituents, like the point I want to make. But I waste a lot of time because I know I respect people who communicate very concisely and who tell stories in like an A, B, C, D fashion. And I need to stop going off the freeway and trying to find my way back. But anyway, it's my problem. Sorry, not my problem, my refinement to make. So, as always, check out the recent conversation I had with Stephanie about the dilemma guys really get frustrated with, which is who should really pay for a date. Previous stream, that was an interesting one. When your partner leaves you, do you really need to know why? Sometimes you do. Sometimes it's impossible. Sometimes you're just torturing yourself. But I discussed a few aspects of this, and a few of you left your comments. And today's comment, today's stream, which is about the art of trusting your gut, I think at the heart of most of our problems is not just the inability to speak up and say our yeses and our nos, but speaking up comes from like not trusting our gut. The more the world says to censor man, the more your girlfriend who can't really communicate but just tells you whatever you're doing is wrong and you just don't get it. You're a typical guy. You're supposed to read the signs. All of this makes you not trust your gut. When you feel like something's wrong, when you feel a red flag and you just feel like, well, I shouldn't trust my gut or my instincts or my intuition, because obviously I'm always told objectively by the world that I'm always wrong and I'm dumb and naive. So you just get used to not even listening to yourself. You just listen to everyone else. You listen to your girlfriend, your mum, your boss. And you really need for your own self-esteem and ability to make better decisions in your life, have better friends, have more meaningful conversations because you're letting it out, is trust your gut and communicate your gut. It's not, stop shying away from feelings, guys. Articulate your feelings. Don't keep them as feelings. I'm not saying live your life by feelings like so many women do, but I'm saying you've got every right to feel the way you want, and if you can articulate it, you'll be right, especially for yourself. Who cares how someone else feels who can't articulate it? But that made me feel bad. Well, your feelings are yours. I articulated mine quite politely and civilly. And, yeah, I'm dealing with my feelings. How about you? You're not going to... People who use their feelings to manipulate and strong-arm other people are terrible. They're the worst type of wolf in sheep's clothing you'll meet. The pretty little girl batting her eyelashes up at you as the taller guy and feeling like, oh, she's innocent. No. What is it? She's a predator posing as a house pet. Anyway, thank you for all the super chats, the support, the interesting questions. Any last super chats before we... Shadow of Ghost. He said, thank you for the super chat. He said, I'm in the middle of great changes in my life. I've quit my job. I'm packing up the unit and very slowly moving to my motorhome. However, none of it done with enthusiasm. No gut feeling at all. Well, some people just kind of get worn down where there's just no incentive to keep doing things for other people and to keep plowing ahead in the right way, where there's just nothing in it for you. Like, there's no happiness. I'm getting nothing from this. And you realize you haven't got enough life left to just throw away anymore. That's one of the benefits of getting older. You become much more honest. Not everyone, but I would say that is one general tendency that tends to happen. Melee says, this will make you laugh. My brother asked me about vetting and how I do it. I said my personality alone is a vet in itself. That's actually funny and accurate. I always figured my personality as well, Melee, is a vetting. And I talked about with Quaz, I'm pretty sure his lifestyle, living on a boat, is also a automatic vetting process. Well, as soon as we go back to my place and my place is floating on the ocean, it's pretty much going to weed out people. So, just be honest. Stop trying to impress. Your personality and your actual life and your values will be the vetting. That's all that's needed. But you have to be honest first, and also point out the honesty of her when she's not compatible with you, when you're not aligned, rather than excusing her because, look, I just want to pump and dump. No, very dangerous. Pumping and dumping, you don't know what you're dumping. You don't know, and sometimes you don't know what you're pumping either in the bedroom. Ronin Jiu-Jitsu Medicine says, a human, from the comment running away or is it coping? And then questioning what it is really coping or coping just in another story program. Look, you can argue that everything is coping because, like, here's a situation, I don't like it, I would rather be at something else or go somewhere else. So making a decision to go from A to B, to go from this chair to sit in another chair is, you can say it's coping, but it's a decision. Some people actually, I would say the way most people use the word coping is you're procrastinating and distracting yourself or diverting attention to something else that isn't really the answer. That's coping as far as I see it. Coping to me is really avoiding the problem. That's generally the way I see it. All right, everybody, I think that should be it. There's no more super chats or comments. Let's see. Big Ol says, reminder to listen to your gut physically as well. I woke up the other day with a serious dread about going to work. Every cell in my body was saying don't go, but I pushed on, came down sick. I'm actually feeling a little bit of that this morning. I feel like I'm getting something. And tomorrow I really do want to go. It's the first time I actually want to go to work because it's the first day of financial new year, the 1st of January. And there's a lot of projects I've set up that I want to do that need to be launched. And I don't want to not show up tomorrow. And it's not just for the company, it's for me too. Like, I want to do these things. And I won't enjoy my day off even when I am sick. So, tricky one. Hopefully I can stay indoors, keep drinking fluids, having lozenges. All right. I hope I answered the comments and questions, because sometimes I know, because the stream is very quick, I don't spend sometimes enough time judging what angle they're coming from, your questions and comments are coming from. So please try and articulate your questions to a chimp, because of the speed at which I'm trying to process it to keep a stream going so it's not boring for people, you know? So anyway, for the rest of you, if you've got a microphone, know how to use push to talk on Discord, jump on Discord. The link to my public Discord server is in my about section, and under this, it should be under this stream. And I'll see you there in a little bit. Have a good weekend. And yeah, are you ignoring your gut? And articulate your gut. You'll start trusting your gut, and then you'll start making your decisions, and you'll know that you apologize to no one for making your decisions. Your gut can be your ally. Instead of like, well, I don't trust it because that's not what women want. That's not what mummy wants. That's not what my job wants. That's not what the country wants. That's not what everyone will give me a pat on the back for. I think you get older and the pat on the back just doesn't suffice anymore. You get older and a naked, beautiful body just doesn't cut it anymore. It's just, as Henry Rollins put it, it's the same mouthwash, just swished over to the other side. The same thing. So anyway, if you like someone, you feel it in your gut, why? If you don't like it, why? Answering your gut will help you trust your own judgment more in the future. You will have better relationships with it. Then you'll be able to say no to an overbearing boss, woman, parent, much, much easier. Enjoy your weekend, guys. And as Brian says here, people that are always trying to impress others usually aren't impressive and have little substance. Most see through it. Yeah. And if you're a person that's really looking for substance, like I'm always talking about, finding the person that's for you, finding the job, making really good decisions, thinking better, not just trying to find what's right for everyone, right? When you're calibrated to that, you start seeing people that no matter how they talk, they really aren't in tune with what they want. They really don't know what's right for them. You've got very smart people that know how to talk the talk. You've got the Andrew Tates out there. Machine gun firing, polysyllabic people that will sell you a course in 5 seconds. They're great car salesmen and they seem very confident, and confidence is very attractive. But the more you're patiently looking at the stuff I'm trying to talk about, you're trying to, in real time, be more intentional about what you want, what you say, and you don't just pluck out memes. You're not just impressing people with lines and inspirational quotes. You've probably met a lot of people that say that, and they reboot people's hard drives with inspirational quotes and memes and sayings that make them come off as really intelligent. And that's all they are. They're a car salesman with really good, memorable lines. When you want to be real, then genuine people, the way they talk really come across. Then you can appreciate a well-rehearsed saying. It's like, oh, that's a great saying. And then you can talk about it with them. That's different. But if all they are just plucking out clever sayings, that's a person with a big suit of armor, an impressive suit of armor, but a big suit of armor in front of them. Or they might just be hollow. I don't know. Anyway, I'll shut up now. I'll go. Have a good weekend. See you on Discord. For those of you with a microphone in a little bit, let me wrap things up here, but I'll see you there in 5 or 10 minutes. Last week we had a really interesting discussion, so let's further this conversation about moving on, and any of you having experience when you trusted your gut and you did, or you didn't, and what happened and what you've learned. Anyway, catch you later. How many times have I said I'm ending this? Well, now I am. All right, bye.